Over the past week or so, while I guess he's waiting for Royce da 5'9" to respond to him, Lupe Fiasco has been dropping just a bunch of loosies, and even to the point where he dissed himself and responded to his own diss on a Lucy. But, it's basically at the point where he's just rapping to rap, and it's fun. So, he just recently dropped another Lucy titled Teach a Man to Fish. And seeing as Lupe is just rapping his ass off again, it's only right we go bar for bar and break down these lyrics. If you're new here, these breakdowns are where I go through, read out the lyrics to an artist's song, and give my interpretation of the lyrics. My interpretation is not always correct, and I don't always mention everything that is in the song. So, if I've missed something or misinterpreted anything, feel free to let me know in the comments below. That way, everyone is educated. So, the title of the track comes from the, proverb or saying, you can give a man a fish and he'll be fed for a day, but if you teach a man to fish, he'll be fed for life. Something along those lines. I don't remember the exact words. I don't really know what that may be in reference to at the moment, because this isn't necessarily a direct track to Royce or anyone in particular. So maybe he's just using this as a teaching lesson, or he's been taught something. Oh, also with this track, because I had to transcribe the lyrics myself, I have missed a few things. I just straight up don't know what he said, so let me know what it actually says if you're able to hear it more clearly, because that'll also help understand what the track is about. But yeah, he goes into the track. Before he starts rapping, he says, "Night work, it's just exercise, man," which I think these tracks have all been released 10 p.m. East Pacific time or so. So it was 1 a.m. on the East Coast. And that's assuming that he's out there. I have no idea where he's currently at, because last I heard he was on tour in Alaska. But regardless, he's just doing this basically as exercise at this point, it sounds like. He's sharpening his sword, essentially. But yeah, so after he says that, he gets right into his verse.
I'd like to thank my mama for making that tank of piranhas that y'all know is Lou. Treat a track like Nathan's famous contest.
So that was the first part where I'm just I don't know what he exactly said. I got the famous conscious, but I don't know what name he said there, which would honestly bring a lot of clarity in terms of the song. But he's just looking back, he's you know what? I am glad that my mother put me in this situation. He's been in a tank of piranhas, so I think that's kind of maybe referencing that he was in Chicago, and Chicago's always called Chirac. It can be very violent. The streets is out there. And also, we've alluded to Lupe having just a lot of guns as well, so he's prepared. But basically he's thanking his mother for being able to, or putting him in that situation with all these piranhas, all these people who are aggressive and going after him, I guess, or potentially they could be going after him, because that helped him become who he is. But then y'all know it's Lou. It's me. It's just me. Or this tank of piranhas made Lou. And then treat a track like something famous conscious. I wish I knew who he said there, but what I can understand from that is that these tracks that he's putting out are kind of like a stream of conscious. These are just all his thoughts laid out. Not necessarily a stream of conscious, because then it's not really laid out. It's just kind of it just goes. But I think it's, he's just this is where he gets his thoughts out.
Make a plate of content, bake away the nonsense, and then I chew. Same teeth since I was 2.
So he's making a plate of content. He's giving you a platter. It's all these loosies. I guess that's what he's alluding to there. He's hey, I'm giving you all this content. Look at this. But also, I think he has a podcast that he's doing himself later on. So there's extra content for you. And then he's baking away the nonsense, and then he chews. So he's putting fire on them, on the nonsense, and just basically to the point where it's evaporating or melting away. You can kind of think of it as baking makes it a little bit weird, but if you've ever, or if you know basic chemistry, I guess, for example, alcohols are very like their boiling point is a lot lower. So you put heat on it, it's going to evaporate. So like they're essentially, you can think of it as being weaker. So he's basically saying like all this nonsense is weak, and the heat that I'm giving it is just making them fade away or evaporate or melt. And then you choose up whatever's left. So the ones or whatever's remaining, he's going to just eat. So the nonsense there could be other rappers or beats maybe. So other rappers make sense because it's like he's spitting hot fire like Dylon, but also like he, hasn't been, or people haven't responded to him necessarily, like at any point really, recently at least. But then he's like, if someone does respond, I'm just gonna eat him up. I'm saying same teeth since he was 2, I think was in reference to Royce's track where he said something about his teeth, like he has small teeth or something. So, and it's also kind of funny because I think when Lupe put out his response track to Royce, he made it clear, or not clear, but he kind of alluded to the fact that he didn't listen to the whole thing. So now it's like, oh, I guess he listened to the rest of the track. But also, same teeth since you were 2. I don't think you have the same teeth since you were 2, unless you lost all your baby teeth then. But I think that was just more of him like, this is how I've always looked.
I don't like the beef, so let's meet behind the move. My skill level accrue. I think I used to stink like the street behind the zoo. Then it all started to sink like a leak inside a cruise.
He doesn't like to beef, which again I think is a response to what Royce was saying, because I believe he said something along the lines of like, you just like to beef or you want to start beefs. But then him saying the moo, I'm assuming is just because beef, but I could have misheard it as well. But beef is meat, and he's like, let's meet behind the moo. I don't know what else he could be referring to. Let's meet behind this place and settle this beef. But, meat and beef and moo. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. His skill level accrues. Accrue, I believe, is like just stacking your money. Is usually meant or spoken about when it comes to money. But in this case, it's like my skill level keeps increasing, essentially. And then I don't know if he's saying he thinks he used to stink like in a negative way, because, sometimes people are like, I'm the shit. And like, that's kind of a positive thing. But here it sounds like he was more like reflecting. He's like, man, I wasn't that good before. I guess it could be taken either way. But also carrying on that beef animal sort of line or theming. And then once I guess once he realized that he wasn't that great, or he realized that he was good, and that his skill level was increasing, it all started to sink in him. He's like, oh, I can do all this. And it's starting to sink in so heavily or so strongly that it's like a leak inside of a cruise ship. So like when a boat or a ship springs a leak, it's going to start sinking if it's big enough, and if you can't notice it or react quick enough. So he's like, this started to sink in so much that it's all leaking out of me now. Like all this is like, that's maybe why he's just putting out all these loosies. He's like, I just have so much to say now. Like, here you go.
I improved, Lou turned into Louvre. Wordplay put on a suit like it was sued. Sounding like the bomb, smelling like a fuse. Venting like a locker, hurt like he abused.
So he mentions again, he improves. Little Lou, like Lou from years ago, is turned into the Louvre, the museum. It's a very high fine art museum. So he's kind of aging like fine wine, I guess you could say. Like he's getting better with age. Wordplay put on a suit like it was sued. Yeah, I don't think he's necessarily talking about any wordplay specifically in this track, but just in general, like his wordplay has been like put on display that it's like suited up and like, fancy, kind of again like fine art, like the Louvre, to the point where it looks like you're being sued, which for some reason in my mind the image that came to my head was like a super baggy suit, so someone who isn't like I guess, prepared to be sued, and there's like, I just gotta buy something off the rack, something that just is ill-fitting. But I don't think that's what he's going with. Sound like the bomb, smell like a fuse. The bomb, that's a not so used term nowadays for something that is cool or awesome or, just positive. But, he sounds like he's dope, and he smells like the fuse. I think that's also just an allusion to like the bomb. I don't know what else that could be exactly. Venting like a locker, hurt like you abused. Hurt locker. But he venting like a locker, like how lockers have vents on them, like just so they don't get stanky, I guess. So like he's venting like that locker, but it's not aggressive, I guess, because you still open a locker, it's gonna smell some sort of way, even if it has vents on it. But then hurt like he was abused. Don't know who he's talking about there. No, I think he might be talking about Royce, because Royce was on IG Live quite a bit in the recent week, where again, I just kind of popped in every so often, but it sounded like he was just kind of venting, and he sounded like he was hurt.
Work like he confused, to be or not to be, a Shakespearean economy, a vocabulary and views. I'm like, what if Drake had the sniper rifle, ape on the empire, and thinking on the higher Eiffel. Ooh.
Work like he confused. I don't that's the thing. I don't want to make it sound like it's entirely about Royce, because I don't think it necessarily is. There's a possibility that it is, but I don't think that's his main focus here. So he's just like, this person who has been hurt, like he's abused, and he's venting like a locker, is just working as if he's confused. Like he's like, I don't know what to do, to be or not to be, a Shakespearean economy. So, to be or not to be is a Shakespearean quote. So Shakespearean economy is like, you have all this to be or not to be. Like there's a balance, like a give and take sort of thing. And a lot of people are like, should I not? And if we want to go into the whole beef thing, it's like, Lupe is like, well, do I keep going on him, or do I just back off? Or maybe that's what he's thinking, Royce is thinking, possibly. But again, I don't really want to make it that's the only option. Like there's probably he might just be thinking big picture. It's like people are like, oh, well, should I do this thing? Should I do that thing? Vocabulary and views, and then the Drake line, so Views was Drake's album. So his vocabulary is in view, meaning his lyrics are on display. And then he's like, what if Drake had the sniper rifle? That, to me, furthers the idea of it being about beef, because the whole Pusha T and Drake beef. So it's like, what if Drake had the sniper rifle? He could see and like really like zoom in on what I guess he could go at for Pusha T, or even with Meek Mill, like their beef. So that Drake bit, like I said, could be an allusion to the whole beef that he had with Meek Mill and Pusha T. So he's like, I'm like, what if Drake had the sniper rifle? What if he could see at a long range and see what he could really go at him for? Again, I guess alluding just to beef, which I didn't want it to be about beef, like I said, but that kind of made sense. The ape on the Empire line is likely in reference to King Kong, so he's aiming the sniper rifle at King Kong. Who is the king here? So I'm trying to figure out, like, I don't know who he's alluding to there. The other thing is interesting because the whole album cover for Views was Drake on the CN Tower, which is also a very tall tower. So that all kind of pulls in together. But that is the track. Overall, I mean, it was definitely shorter than the other ones that he's done, but I enjoyed it. It was a quick verse. Maybe some shots thrown. I'm not entirely sure. Because I keep saying I don't want to make it about beef. It could just be Lupe rapping because he wants to rap. But if it is about beef, I do hope we get some sort of response. Just because it's been so long. But it could also just be like Royce is like just trying to ignore it. And if he is, cool, live your life. But if we keep getting tracks from Lupe like this, I'm totally fine with it. Because, like I said, he's been rapping. But yeah, this track, I don't know how well it plays into the teach a man to fish bit. Maybe because he referenced the zoo and the animals. But that's really all I got for that. So if you can figure that out better, let me know. But that's all I got for this track because my camera keeps overheating. So let me know in the comments below if I missed something or misinterpreted anything. And also just let me know what you thought of this track in general. I thought it was dope. Also, like and subscribe if you want to see more breakdowns and content like this. Thank you for watching, and please stay safe out there.